I, male 20, just got out of a long-term relationship by not showing up at the wedding. This decision has completely split my friend circle down the middle. A few of the impartial ones told me about this subreddit, and I decided to write out everything that happened here. I'll accept whatever judgment you guys have. So, I had been with this girl, Cindy, female 19, since I was 14. We were the typical high school sweethearts, and despite being really young, I think our relationship was quite mature, and we had common goals and priorities. In short, we were hella compatible. At least that's what I thought. Cindy and I both went to different colleges and even got over the hump of long distance. Basically, at the age of 18, I was 100% sure that Cindy was my soulmate. I do still believe in that, lol. And proposed to her. She said yes, and we were both engaged. Obviously, since we were in college, we didn't plan on getting married right away, but our schedules matched up due to a few changes in my academic calendar, and we were planning on getting married in June. Once the date was set, though, I saw a side of Cindy that made me super uncomfortable. Like, I've heard the term Bridezilla before, but I thought it was blown out of proportion just for the heck of it. Not in this case, not one bit. Cindy behaved terribly with our prospective caterers and venues. She even made our wedding planner cry by questioning her taste. She was snarky to me, her mom, my mom, and basically everyone else who was involved in the wedding. It's not even as if it was just stress, because I was pretty free during this time and would jump to help or do whatever needed to be done to help with the wedding. I say this because I'm not one of those yes dear, okay dear kind of dudes. I was fully invested in making the wedding magical for me and my fiancé, but she wasn't happy with anything. Even if we stretched out our budget, it didn't work for Cindy, and we fought more than we had ever fought during this time. Just a few weeks before our wedding, I was approached by my brother Josh, male, 28, and he told me in private that his wife was pregnant. I was super happy for them since my brother and sister-in-law had been trying for a baby for a year. I congratulated them, and then he said, "Listen, I don't want anyone to hear about this before you and Cindy are married, okay? It would take the attention away from the wedding." I honestly didn't mind if my family knew, though, and I told him as much. However, it's not a decision I could take alone, so I said I'll speak to Cindy about whether she would prefer the pregnancy announcement being delayed until after her wedding. So when I told her, she had a reaction that was far worse than I imagined. She straight up said, "Frick, that I'm not letting those attention hogs come to my, not our, by the way, wedding." This was a terrible thing to say. Josh was an amazing role model for me growing up and had been nothing but kind to Cindy. My sister-in-law was also a really sweet woman, and I wanted both of them at our wedding. It wasn't something I was willing to compromise on. Besides, nobody would know. It was only going to be me and Cindy who were aware of this. I tried to explain this to her, but she said, "There's a chance it could come out, and besides, I would know." It was like trying to reason with a brick wall. I think that was the moment when I realized I had mentally checked out of the relationship. I was already planning on having a serious conversation with Cindy about how I didn't like her attitude and behavior. Everything before this was fixable, but the way she spoke about my brother and sister-in-law wasn't. I wasn't thinking straight, though, and wanted to make sure that Cindy learned her lesson and knew we were over for good. I won't lie. I wanted to do something that would embarrass her. I played along. I said, "Sure, we won't invite them. Whatever works for you, babe." I didn't say that to my brother, though. I wanted him to be there so that Cindy knew that I chose my family over them. So on the day of the wedding, I went with her to church, too. Everything was happening smoothly. An hour before the wedding vows, I got into my car and left. I texted an explanation to my family and put my phone on silent. Drove around for a bit and came back to my parents' house the next day. The fallout was immense because Josh made my text message public at the wedding. He read it out in front of everyone and called Cindy out for being selfish. She left with her parents in tears, and I haven't heard from her. My family is strictly on my side, but a lot of my friends are saying that what I did was extremely tasteless and created unnecessary drama. I do get what they mean. because we have a shared friend circle and Cindy was a really nice girl to everyone before the engagement. What do you think, Reddit? Update 1. So obviously I had to speak to Cindy again after a while to get all my stuff back, and she went off on me for not communicating with her that I was feeling so put off by her Bridezilla behavior. The thing is, I had already done that. I had spoken to her about it loads of times, but she always deflected or fought with me without resolving the damn thing. When I brought this up, she didn't have any response and just said that she hated me. I don't think it would be good for either of us to meet after that exchange, so I told her that I'll send someone over to pick up my stuff from her. She agreed curtly, and one of our mutual friends said he was willing to help out. He went over and came back around 3 hours later. It was a long story, but he said that Cindy asked him to stay and looked really emotionally vulnerable. He obliged, and she went off about how she felt like she had made a mistake and wanted me back. After that, she apparently made a pass at him. Kind of polar opposites, if you ask me. It's clear that the breakup is impacting her really badly. I mean, it hurts for me too. But since I checked out of the relationship a while back, it hurts less. Maybe that was unfair to her. Update 2. I think I should apologize for how I ended things. I do think it was right for me to break up with Cindy. Seeing a person under pressure really shows you who they are, and seeing Cindy like that made me realize that even if we have good years, when things get bad, she won't be there to support me or keep herself composed. I also don't think I could get over how casually she dismissed my brother from our wedding and had no sense of excitement for my sister-in-law getting pregnant. That may all be true, but it still doesn't get away from the fact that I was an a-hole for making everything so painfully public, which intentionally dealt harm to Cindy. She may be my ex, but she was also my first girlfriend. A lot of my firsts. And I should respect that. I don't know if we can be friends after all this, and it may take a long time for that stage to come, but I'm mustering up the courage to go over to her house and apologize for the way I behaved. Update 3. I went over to Cindy's house. It was tough. Her dad answered the door and said, "Son, I have half a mind to beat you senseless." So you can imagine what kind of welcome it was. After a lot of convincing, he relented and Cindy came to see me at the door. I gave her a genuine, heartfelt apology, and I told her that I was a fool for purposefully hurting her like that. I said it was dishonest of me to lead her towards a wedding with no intention of marrying her. I said we both deserve people who are more compatible with each other, and I hoped that she found someone for her. She accepted my apology and even joked that people will forget about it in a year or so. I promised that I wouldn't let people joke about it and fully accept my fault in our breakup for all that, and we were on the same page. But after that, Cindy said that she wants a second chance at everything. She said she's learned her lesson and knows that she was being insufferable and wanted to show me that she could change. I wanted this to be true and I wanted it to work, but I don't think it's something that I could get over. And because of that, I wasn't able to commit again. She accepted that, but it seems unlikely that we can remain friends when both of us want different things. We're going to go no contact together, and hopefully that will be for the best. The whole ordeal has been super tough, and I think I've made it tougher for myself. The relationship is unfixable, and there isn't any doubt about that, but I put both of us through a lot of extra emotional pain just because I wanted to make a statement. I will learn from this, and I'm going to focus on myself for now. ESH, I don't know what else the outcome could be. Your ex was clearly being toxic, and you let it continue until she could really cut deep. I know it's tough to have these conversations and establish boundaries. I know you tried too, but that doesn't justify adding fuel to the fire with the stunt you pulled at the wedding. You not only made a huge scene, but hurt your brother's feelings by telling him the truth, deliberately creating anger between him and Cindy. I know none of this was your intention, but yeah, you guys should have broken up with more class. ESH, you less and Cindy more. Engagements can be really stressful for everyone. God knows my husband and I had a rough patch then too. But it's something that had to be kept in check and constantly worked on. If it wasn't worked out like you said, you should have broken up with Cindy the moment she said your brother and sister-in-law weren't welcome. Instead, you did something childish and immature. Apologizing was a good first step, and I hope that both of you can grow around this pain. Next story. Throwaway account. I, 35, male, used to be married to my high school sweetheart, Kelly, 35, female. We got married after undergrad, and overall, I would say that we were really happy. The biggest conflict that I would say we had was the topic of children. Not the idea of actually having them, but when. I've always wanted to be a dad and wanted to have my kids while I was still young enough to run around with them while they were kids and have a good adult relationship with them once they got older. Kelly brought up a lot of good points about needing to get married, living fully on our own, and being out of debt first. For about 5 years, I worked a job I had no passion for, solely because of the large paycheck, and I was able to nearly wipe out our debt completely. We didn't have a lot to begin with in the first place. Then Kelly said she wanted a house, so we got one. Then a few months in, she talked about wanting to go to grad school. Even though we often fought about children, in the end, I always supported her choices because I didn't want her to resent me. I would often ask her if Kelly had ever changed her mind about wanting kids, but she assured me that she still did, just not now. I asked when that would be, and it always felt like she kept moving the goalposts whenever she'd list her requirements, and that I was painted as a jerk for pressuring her to have kids. Unfortunately, after weeks of not feeling well, Kelly was diagnosed with an illness. It was rough, but I stood by her and she pulled through, but the cost was her fertility. I felt like a jerk again because a part of me resented Kelly for not agreeing to have kids sooner, and that resentment grew when Kelly refused to look into using a surrogate, insisting that either we were both the bio parents or neither of us were. In the end, I couldn't take it and just divorced her. A lot of people call me selfish, sexist, misogynistic, etc., but I just wasn't sure if this was something I would be able to truly let go of. I let Kelly keep the house and moved out of town. Eventually, I met and fell in love with Angela, 32, female, and after shortly moving in together, she got pregnant, so we got married. She entered her third trimester with our baby girl, and I'm so excited. A friend back in college moved back to the States and wanted to have a small party to see everyone. He invited Kelly and me, so I checked in with him privately and asked if it would be okay to bring my wife, and he said that it was cool, so I did. This was the first time I saw Kelly in person for years, and she looked well enough. I was polite but kept my distance and thought everything was good until the next day when I got a barrage of texts and DMs blasting me for having the audacity to parade my heavily pregnant, new, younger wife in front of my infertile ex-wife. I had no malicious intentions, and it has been a few years plus. I asked beforehand just to double check. So AITA? ETA, talked about this with someone in the comments. Kelly said it would be too upsetting at the idea of me having a child with another woman regardless of how the child was conceived. It was either adopt or nothing at all. I honestly felt like there was no way we could progress in the relationship without one of us resenting the other, so I filed. If she truly didn't want kids, she put on a great performance. Before her illness, she would constantly gush over other people's babies, insisted buying a house in a good school district for our future kids, and even talked in extensive detail about wanting to be a stay-at-home mom for up to 6 years. I think Kelly just assumed we'd always have time, and then life threw a curveball. If Kelly had stated that she would have been open to having children sooner under the condition that I be the primary caretaker, I would have done it. I would have even taken a lesser paying job so I could have the free time to do it. I never wanted to put in a position where she felt like she would have to give up her career entirely. ETA 2. Stepped away for a little bit, but I just wanted to be clear about something. I did not leave Kelly while she was still sick. It was a year after she was healthy again, and we had been in therapy for months. NTA, I don't think you are an a-hole. It's sad that Kelly is infertile, but you didn't bring your wife to rub her infertility in her face. You reached out to your friend and you got the okay. Just block anyone sending you nasty texts. Also, from that you wrote, it sounds like Kelly never wanted kids and she kept leading you on with the hope that you'd eventually drop the issue. Divorcing her was the right move too. If not, your resentment would have kept growing. NTA, you were invited and it's normal for someone's spouse to accompany them. Plus, you checked with the host in advance. I don't think you're an a-hole for getting divorced. Differences in expectations around having children is pretty common reason. You haven't seen your ex in years. Life goes on. Nobody should be surprised that you married again and are having a baby. I also don't think a 3-year age gap makes your wife a child bride. NTA, you're both adults. Being upset seems petty. My current wife has also been divorced by her past husband, mostly around her infertility. He's newly married and has a second kid on the way. She has no real feeling about because our marriage is great and we are happy where we are at together. So yes, the circumstances for your ex kind of suck, but if she was happy in her own life, it would not be such a big deal to her. Also, you have no responsibility over other people's reactions, etc. Live your life. Next story. I, male, 30s, live with my wife, female, 30s. We both work full-time jobs and have 3 kids, aged 3, 6, and 7. I used to work from home with flexible hours, but I've been offered a promotion which requires me to go to work in person. The pay increase is really significant, so my wife and I agreed I should take the promotion and hire a part-time nanny for our kids. I got in touch with a nanny agency and they matched us to someone who lives local. They only told us her first name, which was a really common name anyway, but for the sake of the story telling, we'll say her name's Sarah. I spoke to Sarah on the phone and she seemed really nice. We arranged a day for her to come over and meet my wife and the kids and for us to show her around the house. When the day came around and we met her, it turned out that my wife already knew Sarah. It was really awkward. I wasn't sure how they knew each other until afterwards. My wife told me that back when she was in high school, her boyfriend at the time cheated on her with Sarah, who was in her class. She wasn't enthusiastic about it, but my wife didn't seem to have a problem with Sarah being our nanny at first. Our kids love her. She has lots of experience and she's available when we need her. After a couple of weeks with pretty much no issues, my 2 oldest kids came to me and say that they don't want Sarah to come back. I asked them why, and they said she's evil. I asked why they think she's evil, and our 6-year-old starts crying and says that Sarah is mean and wants to hurt mommy. I talked to my wife in private, and at first she said she had no idea what the kids were talking about and that it must be because of something Sarah did. When I pressed it, my wife admitted that she told the kids that Sarah is evil. She said she knows it was a ridiculous plan, but she was hoping I'd fire her. My wife asked me to fire the nanny because their history makes her uncomfortable. I asked why it wasn't an issue before. My wife said she just needed to think about it and she's decided Sarah has to go. I told my wife that we can find another nanny, but until then there's no reason to get rid of Sarah, and that she was out of line for trying to weaponize the kids against her when Sarah is no danger to them. My wife disagreed and said that we need to just fire Sarah ASAP and hire a temporary babysitter until we can find another nanny. She said that she wasn't weaponizing the kids. She was just setting boundaries. This turned into a really heated argument, and I called my wife insecure and controlling and told her she needs to go to therapy. My wife said I'm being inconsiderate of her feelings and need to put myself in her shoes. This was one of our biggest arguments in a very long time, and I just want a neutral opinion on whether I was wrong. ESH. Your wife got cheated on by her ex with the woman who is in your lives and in your kids' lives. The sensible thing to do would have been say right away, okay, we'll find someone else. You were being inconsiderate of her feelings. That makes you an a-hole. Your wife should never have used your kids the way she did. That was beyond the pale. That makes her an a-hole. All in all, it means you all suck. ESH. She went about that in an ass-backwards, immature way, but ultimately she gets a say in who watches the children. She should have just been honest and vetoed Sarah from the start. Next story. To keep this short, I'm 25, female. My boyfriend's 26. Had a big interview on Friday that could jumpstart his career. He's been planning for it about 3 weeks. Usually I do all the laundry and take care of our flat in terms of cleaning. On Wednesday, he told me he wanted to wear a very specific blazer and it was in the bin to be washed. I usually do laundry on the weekends because I am full-time uni student, plus I work part-time, so during the week it's hard to make time to go to the laundromat. I told him I would do it Thursday night though, and he said okay. Mind you, he hasn't been working since he just graduated from school in the fall semester, so since the end of December, his parents have helped him pay the rent until he gets a job. Anyway, Thursday rolls around and I get home from class and he's just playing a video game, and he immediately asks me when I'm going to do laundry since he's very nervous and wants it to go perfectly. I'm so tired from school because I had an exam and he didn't even ask me about. So I feel irritated and say I'm going to do it later, but I'm going to take a nap first. He again says okay, and he's going to meet up with a friend for a drink to help calm his nerves. Anyway, as the title says, I ended up not doing the laundry because I was tired and also partially pissed off. He was super pissed. Ended up wearing something else and saying that I screwed him up by not fulfilling what I agreed to. I thought this might blow over since he said it still went well despite me attempting to sabotage him. But he is not speaking to him and has even said he may go stay with his parents over this. Was I really that much of an ass? Edit. When I got home, I did tell him I was tired and asked if he could do it, but he started saying that I had promised and that he had plans with his friend already, so I agreed afterwards, and then I took a nap and overslept, and when I woke up, there was only an hour before the laundromat closed. So I could have still gone, but it would have been really rushed, and I was probably being a bit petty. Also, the blazer is from H&M. Any grown adult who spends 3 weeks preparing for anything only to be stopped by laundry not being done is the a-hole themselves, NTA. But you are going to be one to yourself if this isn't some kind of wake-up call for you. He had so much time and many opportunities to do his own laundry. Heck, he could start his 3-week chunk cleaning his own outfit and hanging it up then. This was a power play, OP. He knew he could have done it himself, but simply expected you to because you already do the laundry in the house. Why not grab my clothes too? Well, why does one adult have to do the chores for 2 fully capable ones? Look up weaponized incompetence and sit back with a coffee and think about your household workload versus his, especially if he isn't working and mommy and daddy pay his bills. Sounds like he's a spoiled punk who's going to start listening to Andrew Tate and Alex Jones. Be careful, OP. Good luck. NTA. He can do his own laundry, but he chose to play video games and go and drink with his friends. Stay tuned for more stories from Argo Relationships.